The name David Atkins may not be familiar to you, but I guarantee you know his comedy. That is because David Atkins is better known by the stage name Sinbad. And under that name, he has found success as one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time, where his clean-cut style of comedy made him a household name as he was able to infuse his hilarious antics with a level of edge and enthusiasm while still maintaining a family-friendly appeal. When this guy was on the stage or on the TV or in a movie, you could tell that he was having fun, and that made us have fun because fun is contagious. But sadly, in recent years, a very serious medical issue has sidelined this legend. So it's time for us to ask that question that unites us all. What the f*** happened to Sinbad? But to truly understand what the f*** happened to Sinbad, we must begin at the beginning, and the beginning began when he was born on his birthday, 1956, Michigan. Like I said, his legal name is David Atkins. And when he got started performing stand-up, he wanted to make a name for himself. You know, a name that made him stand out. So he chose the name Sinbad due to his love of the fictional character from, you know, Sinbad in the Seven Seas, Sinbad the sailor, that Sinbad badass. But this Sinbad wasn't gonna be slaying stop-motion monsters. This Sinbad was gonna be slaying jokes. But while going under the name David Atkins, he was actually the basketball talent in his high school, and would be heavily recruited by various colleges where he would eventually sign with the University of Colorado at Denver. And he would play some basketball for 3 years before a knee injury saw a potential professional career fall through. But yeah, that knee injury, it was a devastating blow to David Atkins, and he would end up dropping out of college and enrolling in the United States Air Force. While stationed in Wichita, Kansas, Sinbad began going downtown to perform at local comedy clubs. Thankfully, he found this path in life, as Sinbad recalls that he was almost dishonorably discharged from the Air Force for various reasons, including going AWOL several times after failing to make the Air Force basketball team. And he was actually hoping to get kicked out. In a world long ago, there weren't as many TV shows that showcased our various talents for the world to see, but back in the 80s, if you wanted to show the world a special skill, you had to go on Star Search. Sinbad would appear on the very first season of the show, and would beat Dennis Miller in their head-to-head battle that would ultimately come in a second place overall for the entire season of the show. They were searching for a star, and they found one in Sinbad. The success on Star Search would lead Sinbad to land a gig in the TV movie Club Med in 1986, opposite Linda Hamilton and Bill Maher, before landing a spot on a new show featuring the legendary Red Fox. Sadly, the Red Fox show would only be around for 13 episodes before getting the axe. But that would lead Sinbad to land a guest spot on The Cosby Show, Season 3, Episode 15. That single episode must have made an impression on Bill Cosby, as just a few years later, the show would have a spin-off where Sinbad would be hired as a warm-up comedian for the audience. The guy who comes out and tells funny jokes to get the live studio audience in the mood for some comedy. It's a thing they do in the business. It would be Bill Cosby who would speak to producers saying that this man should be on TV, and thus Sinbad would land his biggest role as a series regular on the long-running show A Different World, where he would play the lovable coach for 4 seasons.
And then Cosby showed up, and I was like, oh, I got to show off. And so he saw me and said, you ought to be on TV, and he put me on his show 4 weeks later.
Wow.
And then I got a chance to get on A Different World.
With Sinbad's star on the rise, he would appear in the mockumentary That's Adequate in 1989, which according to reviews was far from adequate. This was before landing his first HBO comedy special, Sinbad, Brain Damaged, in 1991, where he would bring his clean-cut yet hilarious comedy to the world stage on the home box office, the HBO, before those f***ers changed it to Max. Sinbad has said his approach to comedy is that he doesn't need to use motherfucking foul language to get a motherfucking response from a motherfucking audience, as long as you're motherfucking funny. So yeah, as long as you're funny, the audience will respond. And respond they did with laughter that was out loud, or as the kids call it, LOLing. Sinbad says that his job is to highlight everything that is wrong with all of you, and when you do that with an audience, you realize that he isn't the only one that's kind of messed up. In that same year of 1991, Sinbad would appear in Necessary Roughness, which isn't the best football movie ever made, but it's actually a solid football movie that is good to watch. After appearing on the show Rock, Season 2, Episode 10, hosting SNL and voicing a condom in the educational short film Time Out, The Truth About HIV, AIDS, and You, Sinbad would land his very own network sitcom on Fox, where Mr. Sinbad would play a bachelor who takes in 2 orphaned children. Classic sitcom hilarity ensued.
I want to be your daddy.
What? Both of us?
Yes, both of you. If it's all right with you two, I want us to be a family.
The Sinbad Show would be sadly canceled after a single season, but it would be honored with a Kids' Choice Award nomination for Favorite Television Actor. But the cancellation of the Sinbad Show wouldn't stop him from working. He would get right back on the stage for his next special called Sinbad, Afros and Bell Bottoms, where he said more funny things. And of course, if you grew up in the 90s, like me, we all remember seeing Sinbad star in the classic genie movie, Shazam. But the only problem is that movie never actually existed. But that did not stop the internet from swearing that they had seen this movie where Sinbad plays a bumbling genie. And I have to admit, I kind of have some memories of it too. There are many famous instances of the Mandela Effect, the phrase stemming from the thought that prior to his actual death in 2013, many people believed that Nelson Mandela had actually died while in prison in the 1980s. Like they had that false memory. There's also the Bernstein Bears, and this frickin' genie movie. Many Sinbad fans swore that they had seen this movie when they were young. And many would actually get kind of annoyed and triggered when you explained to them that they're simply thinking of the movie Kazaam starring Shaquille O'Neal.
Your wish is my command.
Or that maybe they're remembering the time that Sinbad did host a movie marathon dressed up as Sinbad the Sailor, which kinda looks like a genie. Or the time he dressed up as a foreign person as Ishbu's dad in Nickelodeon's All That. So maybe it's just like a mixture of all those things, that movie marathon, the All That skit, just his name, Sinbad. Maybe all those little things got kind of mixed up in our collective minds and we all had this false movie in our heads that we all remember watching but didn't actually watch. Or maybe something got effed up with the space-time continuum or something, or there is a parallel universe out there where people are like, hey, let's read the Bernstein Bears and watch that Sinbad genie movie while we mourn Nelson Mandela in the 80s. Who knows? Or, for some reason, a lot of us thought Shaquille O'Neal was Sinbad. Because, I don't know, racism? I don't know. But yeah, if I ever find a genie lamp, I'm gonna rub it and use all 3 of my wishes to figure this genie Sinbad mystery out. Also, the movie First Kid came out in the same year as Kazaam, and so maybe a lot of us 90s kids did a double feature and it got mixed up. The world may never know.
I am Kazaam!
Of course, all of this hilarious confusion led Sinbad and the fine folks at College Humor to share newly unearthed VHS footage that they found behind an old Blockbuster video, which featured lost scenes from this so-called genie movie with Sinbad, titled Shazam. This funny video would go viral on April 1st, April Fool's Day 2017. Making all of us 90s kids wish that this movie actually was real. But it's not, and we need to fucking grow up and move on and realize that wishes don't come true. Or just appreciate the magic that Sinbad was able to give us without being a genie.
I am Shazam!
Okay, back to this universe. After landing roles in films like Coneheads in 1993 and The Meteor Man in 1993 and the TV movie called Aliens for Breakfast, which has the funniest IMDb listing I've ever read. I'm gonna read it now. Kids get cereal for breakfast. Breakfast has alien toy. Toy is alive. Adventure occurs. Happy ending. The end. Sinbad would get the chance for a bigger role on the big screen opposite the late great Phil Hartman in the 1995 movie Houseguest, that critics called perplexingly unfunny. The film Houseguest would be made with a modest $10 million budget, and ultimately have a decent return on investment with over $26 million pulled in at the box office. 1996 would be Sinbad's biggest year in terms of sheer output. This dude was everywhere, sailing the 7 seas. Not only would he release his NAACP Image Award-nominated stand-up special Sinbad, Son of a Preacher Man, but he would appear in 3 theatrically released films and 1 Emmy-nominated TV movie called The Cherokee Kid, a Western comedy. In theaters, he would kick off the year voicing Riley in Homeward Bound 2: Lost in San Francisco, before landing the lead role as a Secret Service agent in the Disney film First Kid, where this film was not a huge hit with audiences or critics, only amassing $26 million. I guess you could say I was the target audience of this movie because I thought it was pretty dang funny. And in my little 90s kid mind, because there's like one scene with some gunfire in this movie, I felt like I was watching an action movie, which made me feel cool. Sure, this movie First Kid is a Disney-fied film, but Sinbad brought his enthusiasm to the role, just like in the way he does with his stand-up. Once again, it feels like he's having fun, and you just want to have fun alongside him. They should do a sequel to First Kid and address all of the political issues of today. Of course, no matter how much I enjoyed First Kid, nothing can top Sinbad's next film. A film that many of us watch every single year when Christmas time comes around. That's right, I'm talking about the hit holiday classic Jingle All The Way, where Sinbad is absolutely hilarious as the bad guy, the arch nemesis to Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. Honestly, I can't think of a better actor who could have played this role. Not many people can go up against Arnold, our hero. And yes, of course, we're supposed to root against Sinbad's character, but because of Sinbad's performance, he plays the role once again with such enthusiasm and sympathy that we want to see him succeed in his quest and get his kid that Turbo Man doll, even if he's going to prison for a long time. But it's no wonder why he won the Blockbuster Entertainment Award for Favorite Supporting Actor in a Family Film for this movie, Jingle All The Way.
What you gonna do now, kid?
After releasing his next big stand-up special called Sinbad Nothing But the Funk, Mr. Sinbad would appear in Nickelodeon's Goodburger as the victim of a car crash that forces Kenan Thompson's character to get a job, thus launching a summer of fun-filled hamburger shenanigans as they try to take down the evil corporate mega mondo burger. Or as Sinbad puts it, the home of the big booty burger. And then he would get his own syndicated late-night talk show. Sadly, Sinbad's attempt at the late-night game was short-lived, as the series would be cancelled before it could even make a year on the air. But that wasn't the only place that you could find Sinbad. He would appear on guest spots on shows like Moesha, Girlfriends, and the Showtime series Resurrection Boulevard, while taking a detour from comedy to appear in the 2002 psychological thriller, Crazy as Hell. After taking a short hiatus from public life, he would do a direct-to-video film called Stompin', but for me, it was his hilarious appearance on Season 4, Episode 9 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that reminded many of us just how much we genuinely loved Sinbad. In this episode, he plays a patient in a mental facility opposite Matchbox 20 singer Rob Thomas, who are having a hell of a time messing with Dennis. It just reminded us that the fact that whenever we see Sinbad in anything, the one thing that he can always be trusted to bring to all of his roles is a sense of genuine fun. And movies and TV shows and entertainment, it's like, sometimes it's supposed to be fun.
You know what? My name is Sinbad. This is Sinbad's house. When you're in Sinbad's house, you my bitch.
In 2009, Sinbad ran into a bit of trouble with the state of California. Mainly the fact that he owed them $2.5 million in unpaid personal income tax. Later that year, Sinbad would be forced to file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And shortly after, he would have to sell his 2.5-acre home in order to settle all of his tax debts. Dang, government, leave Sinbad alone. Of course, it was his stand-up that was always his first love. And he continued that hilarious legacy by releasing a Comedy Central special titled Where You Been in 2010. And proving how divisive comedy can be, Comedy Central would name Sinbad number 78 on their list of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time, while Maxim magazine would name him one of the worst. In March of 2010, Sinbad would be fired by a pre-presidential Donald Trump on the Celebrity Apprentice show, before appearing in his own reality TV program titled Sinbad, It's Just Family, that was cancelled after just one season. Most of the 2010s were spent doing hilarious guest roles on shows such as Are We There Yet?, The Eric Andre Show, and Comedy Bang Bang, while also lending his voice to such projects as American Dad, Steven Universe, The Lion Guard, and the 2013 movie Planes. In 2018, Sinbad would return to being a series regular on a short-lived Fox sitcom called Rel. Sadly, in October of 2020, Sinbad suffered a stroke that nearly took his life. The stroke was caused by a blood clot that traveled from his heart to his brain. He was rushed to the hospital where doctors were able to remove the clot from his brain. The surgery was successful and all seemed okay until he developed another blood clot the very next day, which again was removed. But sadly, things did not exactly get better. His brain began to swell, which forced doctors to perform surgery where they discovered a bleed that forced the doctors to place Sinbad into a medically induced coma and on a ventilator. Weeks had passed before Sinbad would simply open his eyes. But when he did, he realized that he had lost mobility on his left side. Slowly, he would be taken off the ventilator, but Sinbad would remain in the hospital for nearly 9 months. His family would take to his Instagram page and share the story of this man who fought for his life, while showing photos of this iconic comedian relearning to walk. They had called his fight and determination nothing short of remarkable, while also sharing that Sinbad has one purpose. In his own words, he said, "I am not done. I will not stop fighting until I can walk across the stage again." And while fighting this horrific medical experience, Sinbad would even show up as himself in an episode of the brilliant Emmy-winning series Atlanta.
Get a smooth-looking brother at the helm.
So while we wait for this icon of the comedy microphone to recuperate, we can look back at his body of work that may have gone overlooked in its time and appreciate the dedication that David Atkins, aka Sinbad, put into his craft. We can also appreciate the genius of his storytelling on the stage and the joy that he brought to us over the years. I know I'm not alone when I say I look forward to seeing him back on the stage, mic in hand, where he will once again bring his uplifting comedic stylings to a world that so desperately needs it. Yeah, it's times like this that we really do wish that Sinbad was a genie. So despite a rocky road over the past few years, it seems that we should all give a fuck about what the fuck happened to Sinbad, because he's a true fighter, like Sinbad, who will rise again. And I, for one, cannot wait to see how this master takes those experiences that he's had over the past few years and spins them into comedy gold.